One of the more interesting aspects of the other day's announcement of the Xbox Series S has been debunked, not only by Sony themselves, but by Microsoft themselves. And even though IGN sort of ran with this idea behind the Xbox Series S and had a lot of kind of misinformation in it, that's now been corrected, and we kind of have a better indication of the truth. Again, this goes to show you can't trust every quote-unquote insider, because nobody's perfect. I'm not perfect, you're not perfect, nobody's perfect. And so at the end of the day, it's just good to try to get the right information out as often as possible, which obviously I'm going to link so you guys will be able to check this out. But this pretty much exonerates the PlayStation 5 in such a manner that, you know, it's pretty incredible, to say the least. We do have to see exactly where this kind of turns out, but again, it does sound like great news for the PlayStation 5 and kind of puts Xbox in its place. What's up, everybody? Crapgamer here with Crapgamer Reviews, back with another video. Thank you so much for checking it out. I really do appreciate it. Please like, share, subscribe. I would appreciate that as well. It helps out the channel, and you know what? Darn it, it makes me feel good. So thank you guys very much. Shout out to all the old subscribers, new subscribers, and everybody in between. You all are some fine folk, and I really do appreciate you from the bottom of my heart. You guys are amazing, and it means the world to me with all the support and things like that. If you are wondering the best way to support my channel, it's a simple like. You can also, you know, hit the bell, all that kind of good stuff. You know, again, it goes a long way, so it's just much appreciated. It does mean a lot to me as well. So with that being said, I kind of wanted to get into this because a lot of people were sort of running, you know, with some kind of really bad takes and things like that. So it's good to see that we can actually kind of put those things aside. Again, next generation is going to be interesting. You know, the Xbox Series S clearly shows that Microsoft is competing, and they want to compete. Despite what Phil Spencer says, I don't get why you would claim not to want to compete and then compete by your actions but not your words. It doesn't make sense. Like, let people know that you're in it to win it, that you want people to support your product. I think that's really the best way to go about these things. But with that being said, you know, there's people like Tom Warren at The Verge, and there's other people as well who are claiming that the Xbox Series S actually has a faster CPU than the PlayStation 5, and it isn't actually accurate, to be 100% honest. So when you look at this, it's not actually that. So IGN actually ran with it, saying that, hey, it's a faster, more powerful CPU than the Xbox, or excuse me, than the PlayStation 5. And now it looks like they've actually kind of changed that, because if you remember, Tom Warren from The Verge had originally said, I think months ago, that the CPU is the same as the Xbox Series X, which would make it a little bit faster than the PlayStation 5 CPU. Now, Microsoft has kind of debunked that themselves, and they explained that the CPU in the Series S is quote-unquote similar to the Xbox Series X, which they kind of introduced that for the console as well. The director of program management for Xbox said the Xbox Series S leverages the same 8-core Zen 2 CPU architecture as this Xbox Series X, running at 3.6 gigahertz. Importantly, the Series S has identical I/O performance. It makes it easy for developers, etc., etc. But you can clearly see when they put out the spec sheets that the Xbox Series X is running at 3.8 gigahertz and 3.6 gigahertz with SMT enabled, while the Series S is 3.4 gigahertz with SMT enabled. So again, it's not as all cut and clear and dry coded as everybody was saying. So it is nice to see that, you know, like even when these big sites and things like that are running with these types of stories, it is sort of funny to see how some of the reactions can be and how people can sort of go running with it. Again, how can you be excited about the Xbox Series X and being the most powerful and all that kind of stuff, but then when you look at the PlayStation 5, it's just slightly less powerful, between 16 and 18%. And then you can also hype up something like you pick and choose, it seems like, pick and choose what to hype up for the Series S as well. Like, that doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever. I do not understand that. And the main reason I don't understand that is, simply put, it doesn't make any sense. Okay, it realistically just does not make any sense. Why would you go, oh well, it's got a faster CPU? Like, everything else about it is less than half the power of the PS5. So why would you hype up a CPU that you would think is like 0.1% higher? It really doesn't make any sense. All in all, next generation is going to be between, and not only that, but the Series S throws a wrench into the plan, because the same people that are hyping power and 12 T-flops over there with the, Xbox Series X don't realize that the Series S is probably going to be the bigger seller, meaning that Xbox once again is going to have the least powerful console, and they do have the least powerful console. It just turns out they have the most powerful, just like this generation. Would you look at that? Ba-boom! Bada bing, bada boom! Things, the more they change, the more they stay the same, right? Like, I don't understand the positive outlook that a lot of Xbox fanboys have with this, and I'll tell you why. It's the same outlook that we've experienced for the last 3 years, and I've kind of gone over this time and time again. The last 3 years, Microsoft has had the most powerful console, the least expensive console, Xbox Game Pass, Xbox Play Anywhere. They've had all this stuff, Xbox Game Gifting. They've had all these things, all these quote-unquote advantages, and it still hasn't helped them in the console space. Honestly, it hasn't. And I know it's not just about the console space, but it hasn't helped them really catch up to Sony in any measure. Sony more than doubles, or PlayStation division more than doubles what Xbox brings in. So, again, it may be long term, and we're talking very long term, Microsoft has a good idea, but I think especially short term, Microsoft is a little bit short-sighted with what they're doing, and I do think that could come back to bite them in the butt, just a little bit. I'm not saying that Sony for sure is going to totally knock it out of the park or anything like that, but I do feel like the fact that they've got games and they've got, a clear path and a clear direction, and it's a little bit more catering towards, what traditional gamers want, I feel like that's a really good thing, and I think that's what gets people most excited, at least in my opinion. I mean, I could be wrong with this. I'm not perfect, obviously, but I do tend to think when it comes to something like this, I know a little bit of something about what I'm talking about at any rate. So hopefully that is the case here again. But again, it is nice to see that people pretty much, they kind of got called out for making a mistake, and anybody can make a mistake. I just am to the point where I find it a little bit ironic that, so many other people can get called out for being wrong or having a bad take or whatever, and then, a big site or whatever just kind of gets away with it and nobody really says much about it. So it was good to see them kind of correct that, and we see that, hey, you know what, the PlayStation 5, I don't know why people would be running with that whole situation where, the PS5 is this or that, or, it's going to do this or that, or it's going to be less, like, if somehow that 0.1% or whatever was going to really make a difference, and somehow the Series S was actually better. Like, I think people try to talk themselves into some ridiculous things, and at the end of the day, that's just probably not the smartest thing, in my opinion. I really do hope that in the future people kind of pay a little bit more closer attention to what's being said and stuff like that, because you can obviously see just from the facts alone, because Microsoft's already said it. So why, how many people yesterday on social media sent me this, right? They're like, look at this, the Xbox Series S has a better CPU. It's faster, I tell you, faster than the PlayStation 5. Microsoft sure did win the day. Ha 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 ha. Like, man, at the end of the day, there's some people out there that I tell you what are gotta think a little bit crazy. So again, the Xbox Series S nowhere near as proficient as the PlayStation 5, and while I think that it's great that maybe some people get to jump into next generation at a cheaper price point, that's really nothing new, to be honest with you. I feel like that's something that we've had for a long time, and I do also think that it's not going to matter much. Like I said, we have a blueprint of Microsoft having the most powerful console, having the least expensive console, having Game Pass, having all this stuff. We already have that blueprint, and it's called the last few years. And how much has it helped Microsoft? They've got 41 million consoles in the wild. After all that they've done, 41 million. And you can say value and Game Pass and all this all you want, but the fact of the matter is, they've released 0 AAA exclusive this year. Their launch lineup is Assassin's Creed, Watch Dogs, Gears Tactics, and Yakuza Like a Dragon. That is the worst launch lineup I've ever heard of in the history of gaming, especially to launch a new, supposedly powerful console, which, by the way, we've seen gameplay footage from the Series S, but we haven't seen any on the Series X. Why, you might ask? Well, could it be that there's not really a difference or a noticeable difference to the naked eye when it comes to gameplay on a Series X and the PlayStation 5? Because that's where my money's at. You know what I mean? They're not afraid to show the Series S because it's a weaker console and obviously going to run at less resolution and things like that. But they are a little bit more timid to show the other stuff. So that's where I kind of am at on this whole situation. But I would love your thoughts and opinions on it down below. Thank you so much for watching. Please take a minute to consider subscribing. Have a fantastic day. Stay safe, happy, and healthy. Rack 'em up, my friends. Game on. Game on. Crapgamer out.
Unscripted.